So now he's going to talk about the upgraded turbo kit he's making for the VR30 and jump right into it. So, boom. When is the kit coming out? This is what I want to know.
Yeah, so
it's January.
We get a lot of calls and requests on, hey, when's the turbo kit coming? When's it coming? This is one of those things where, you know, we looked at the market and we said, hey, you know, we want to be able to bring this, but we want it to be affordable. A lot of the stuff that we do, you know, we're looking at what the cost is to the end user. Some of our stuff is really expensive, and we notice that and we understand it. I've built cars before. I know where budgets go, and it's like, man, I wish I had an extra $1,000. I would use it.
Extra $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, we looked at some of our designs. So, and some of the materials we were looking to use. So for instance, I'll give you a prime example. So our engine brackets, right? We had this beautiful design for the engine bracket, nice 5-axis CNC, billet aluminum, was going to be awesome, amazing. The cost for us was over $1,000 to make them.
Jesus.
Because of the size of the material we have to use and the time of machining, the amount of time in the machine that we would have to use. And that, for us, that was just not cost effective. And so, you know, we were like, you know, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's make sure that we're putting something together that's a high quality product, but at the same time is cost effective. And so that has taken some time. So we actually had to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how do we solve this problem? Because we are putting in significantly larger turbos in an area which is very, very limited in space. We have to work around certain aspects, you know, like Ryan Ricka was doing with his kit that he was making, using similar size turbos and having to get around like the AC compressor and things of that nature. So we're trying to make it to where the fit and finish of this is OEM, but it's high quality. So that's some of the things, and we want to reuse some of the OEM parts. So for instance, like the oil return lines and things of that nature, this is part of that cost savings. We were saying, okay, how can we do this so we can reuse some of the factory
plug and play?
Yeah, so we can make it as plug and play as possible. And that's been a difficult task. That's something that's taking us time. There's a lot of reverse engineering and saying, okay, now that we fix this, this other problem pops up. Now we got to address this. So we totally understand why it took AMS to come out for so long on theirs, because it takes time to actually work in this tight of a space and get things to line up appropriately. But you know, our goal is to get this kit under 10 grand. We want to make sure that the buyers that buy this kit are able to get something that's affordable. Which brings me to my next point. These turbos, the Garrett turbos, retail for over $2,400 a piece. That's a huge cost to people. We want to reduce that cost. So we've actually partnered with another manufacturer who makes their own, that uses Garrett center cartridges, but they make their own housings. And they're really, really high quality housings. And so we're actually looking at them at a cost that's half the cost. So we are going to offer the initial kit with that option or the Garrett upgrade option. So if you don't feel comfortable getting this one and going the budget route, we will offer you the full-fledged Monty. You can pay for the additional $2,000 to $3,000 for it. So right now what we're looking at is, you know, $1,300 a turbo versus $2,400 to $2,600 a turbo. Ooh. So, you know, it's literally half the cost. So that's something that we're really looking forward to being able to bring to market and test out. So as of right now, like I said, uses the exact same center cartridges. So we're super excited.
So the more affordable kit was somewhere under 10 G's. That's what you're looking to.
Oh yeah, right, most definitely.
Then of course the Garrett's, boom, the upgraded. Yeah. Now, knowing the price, you didn't really tell me when it's going to be out because there's still more testing that went into it.
Yeah.
But still, can you give these guys at least a ballpark?
We're looking for either first or second quarter of this year.
Okay.
You know, with the setbacks, we were hoping to be able to release by the end of the year.
Yes.
We have the majority of the kit already done. Right now, we're just going through a couple of the key components, and we will be going back to testing. You know, besides just doing engine dyno stuff, we want to actually get it in a car. Right now, we have it on a motor. We're about to put into another car and actually get it on the dyno. So we're probably weeks away from doing that. So,
guys, that means end of March or the end of June, I would assume.
Yeah.
So you got time. I'm gonna hold you to your word now. You got two to 5 months, okay? So guys, just hold on, you know, just give them some time and be patient. Also, what I'm gonna add is people, you already know, not everybody wants to go full F and send. And some people might, in my own case, if I do ever go that route, I don't know. But if they just said, hey, I want to get this kit. I want to get the $1,300 turbos and I want to run 93 fuel. Would you recommend still using this on the stock water to air intercoolers? Of course, upgraded cooling system, but just the stock air to water intercoolers. Would it just suffice?
You're going to be at the same limitations we've already seen with a lot of guys around 600 horsepower, 700 horsepower. You start seeing major heat soak issues with the factory intercoolers. That is often starved off or like pushed off with the upgraded heat exchangers. One of the things that we've seen with practice is the auxiliary end tanks have caused, we noticed that when we actually put it in one of our test vehicle, we had the auxiliary end tank, factory heat exchanger, and because we were going through the whole process of factory with our intercoolers, factory with the auxiliary tank, upgraded heat exchanger with the auxiliary tank and our intercoolers. We noticed that we were consistently getting air pockets. With that, with the design, the way it's designed, and where it sits in the system, we were consistently getting air pockets. You know, we have really good techs that have been working on this. You know, vacuum, sucking out all the air as much as possible, burping it. So we've gone through multiple revisions of that. That's caused us such a pain. That's not something that we would recommend running. We would want to go to simplified system of just heat exchanger, just intercoolers. No additional auxiliary tanks needed. Even with the budget heat exchangers with our auxiliary or with our intercoolers will be insanely efficient. We were seeing really, really good efficiency with a factory heat exchanger in just our intercoolers.
Okay, do you think, how about for people who want to retain their CATBACK exhaust, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you can retain your CATBACK exhaust. We would suggest going to a high flow cat. You know, that would be one of the things that we would recommend. If you're running a factory exhaust, you're going to be putting limitations on your system.
I don't think anybody's going to do that. But I'm just saying, some people might have went and got the 3-inch exhaust from MBRP or an NVIDIA. Do you think that it would suffice with your upgraded turbos?
Yeah, there'll be there's going to be limitations in any exhaust system. You know, we like the fast intention stuff. Tony Meyerson and team over there, they make a quality product. It's something that we support. I've run their stuff on my cars. I've run multiple of their exhausts, extremely well flowing exhausts. If we had an opportunity to recommend somebody, that's who we would recommend every single time.
Okay. Same thing for the downpipes. You know, you can reuse
Same thing for the downpipes. Their stuff fits perfect every single time.
So they can be used with, you're aiming to try to make it as literally OEM as possible.
As literal as OEM as possible. We may have to make our own downpipes for these based on where they sit with the exhaust. But if that is the case, that is something we will probably partner with someone like Fast Intentions to make those so that they fit as OEM as possible.
Okay.
That's outside of our realm of expertise. We don't necessarily have that manufacturing capability, so we would most likely partner with someone like Fast Intentions. So
do you think if somebody wanted to run 93 on low boost for the larger turbos, do you think it's recommended for them to get a larger in-tank pump and a high pressure fuel pump?
Yeah, if you're going to run 93, it really depends on the use case, man.
Yeah.
The turbos, you can throw a big turbo on a car all you want. How it responds will be dependent on the fuel in the air that it's able to get, as well as the timing of the motor. So you start looking at the volumetric efficiency of that motor. As you have a restrictive intercooler or things of that nature, there's ways to make it act better. and be more efficient. And that's what we kind of aim at, is give you all the peripherals to make that motor as efficient as possible. But in respect to, can you do it? Yeah, you can do it. You could throw it with a factory fuel system on there. You're not going to make the power you want to make.
You have to run lower boost. Yeah,
you're going to have to run lower boost. But, you know, when it comes to modding, if you're going to throw this type of system on there, the expectation is that you're going to, one, take care of your fueling system, and two, you're already prepping or looking to, in the future, building your block, building your transmission, because that is something in the future that you're going to need to answer to. Yeah,
that's what I was actually going to move forward to, because some people may say, hey, listen, I'm going to skip yours. I'm going to skip RT turbos. I have enough money to get your turbo kit for $10,000, but I don't have the next $5,000 for the high pressure fuel pump and some of the other things. So they may just choose, hey, I'll go with this first, run it on low boost. That's why I was just asking, just to see if those people can be able to get away with that. But of course, don't stretch the fuel system, because
so the way that I approach people, and this kind of goes into that discussion that we're going to have on proper builds. There's an order of operations of things that you want to do. You want to build out, for instance, your fuel system to be more than the capability of what supporting mods you're putting on there. You want to have a level of buffer, so that in the case of something does go wrong, or you do have some issues, that buffer is easily able to be eaten up, and you're not overstressing the system. For instance, my recommendation would be, go ahead and get your fueling stuff sorted out, get it in your car. It's relatively low level of effort compared to putting a turbo kit in, as far as installing. You'll get more benefits out of it with stock turbos all day long. Enjoy it, save up the money, then get the turbo kit, then install that.
Okay.
And that's the route I would go.
Okay,
in that order.
Fueling first, so that you have as much fuel as possible. Then, of course, upgraded turbos or completely larger units.
Yeah.
Okay. And with all your other parts.
Yes, with all our other parts.
Okay, so lastly, this brings us to the part, like you said, if you were going to go to an extreme build, I guess you take, the floor is yours again.
So, you know, one of the things that I try to do, and I've done this in my car, and I learned the school of hard knocks. I've built my car 3 times, and that's for, you know, chasing numbers to chasing, you know, mile per hour. You know, there's certain things that you do and certain things that work and don't work. So the main thing is that, you know, let's take, like, for instance, a motor, for example. We can talk about the BQ motor, and I think Soho Motorsports actually put out a decent video on things that do work. I have some disagreements on some of the things that work. My car is living proof that you don't necessarily do some of those things. But, you know, to each their own. They have their own sauce, and their sauce works, and they're making good power. My sauce works, making good power. And so, you know, I want people to be able to do something that's reliable, that's simple. You know, when we talk about building successful programs when it comes to racing, when it comes to, you know, being reliable, simplification of systems. You want to simplify as many of your systems as possible and remove potential areas of risk. So for instance, when we talk about our fueling, we're talking about expanding the direct injection system over adding port injection. That's a simplification of systems, making sure that we can push the limitations of something before we add in another level of complexity. So for instance, if we're talking about the VR30 motor, for example, initially, closed deck block. Depending on the condition of the cylinder walls and the pistons you tend to use, either the factory, if they're not ovaled and they are perfectly round and they're within spec, it's good to go. Put in your new pistons. If it is ovaled, it's not in round, and it's out of spec, we would suggest a dry sleeve. At that point, you're already machining the block, put in the closed deck block. It's not that much more cost difference to do that. At that point, that's what we kind of look at as our first stage of competition bare blocks.
This is if you want, just throw out a number. So this will be a 1,100 horsepower build? Just throw roughly so someone knows in their head what we're aiming for here.
You're talking 700, 800, 900 horsepower without a problem.
Okay.
If you start going into 4 digits, then at that point, given the size of the motor and stuff like that, then we would start looking at the main girdle enhancements, just so that you have the strongest block possible to handle what you're going to be throwing at it.
So
because at that point, you're going to be at on a G25 660, you're going to be upper 30s into 40 psi boost. That's a lot to throw at that motor, and you know, you're going to be looking at, okay, can the heads take it? We've reviewed the design of the heads. They're surprisingly a very efficient log style manifold design. You can, if I had some pictures of it, I can probably send you some cutaways of the heads, and people can see for themselves. So we've actually sacrificed a set of heads and cut them open. Just so that we could, yeah, just so that we could see how it was designed, if there were any porting options for it. The problem, one of the things we found is there is a coating on the log manifold side of the heads, so you cannot do any porting on it. The reason for that is the cooling jacket is within, you know, very, very close proximity of that turbo manifold side of the house, and if you actually do porting and remove that coating, you're likely going to overheat the heads and overheat the cooling system. So that's something that we're not willing to risk and say, hey, you know, this is an option. So as of right now, we're kind of holding still on porting for heads. We are looking at advancements for the cams. That's one thing I forgot to mention earlier, is that we are working on that. We did get a set of cams. They were out of spec to what we had ordered. So we were kind of going back and forth with the cam company to make sure that it's within spec.
What would be the, sorry for cutting you off, what would be the duration change?
We're looking at 10% over. So it's not as significant. It's a mild cam. So we're not really going to release specs yet. You know, we don't want anyone else to jump into it, but it's a 10 over, and so it should see some gains. We have a couple of test vehicles that we're looking to put these on, so once we're able to get that, that'll be significant. The cost for the valves and the springs and everything is costly, because there aren't that many out there, and it's not necessarily off-the-shelf parts. So at that point, you know, we're looking at getting custom orders and stuff like that, so we're having a custom spec made. Okay,
cool. So now we got the closed deck cams. Heads are good. Because we're building pretty much 1,000 horsepower VR30 here. We already talked about some of the parts, your turbo kit now. All right, is there anything else we need to look into?
Head studs. Head studs is one of the other things. So we've been talking with ARP about making 625 plus CA 620, the custom made 625 plus head studs. As of right now, we haven't really seen a need for it yet. We will know through testing with our cars when we'll see head lift. As soon as we see head lift on that, then we'll say, okay, you know, this is really when you need it, and that's when we'll push out. COVID's really kind of hit California very hard, and they were 24 plus weeks out for just simple head studs, and I was like, I'm not gonna wait on that. I'll wait for things to get back to normal, and then we'll approach that again. So and that's been tough. I mean, a lot of our stuff has been heavily impacted by COVID. That's a lot of been drawback for a lot of our development too.
That sucks. All right, so outside the motor now, the motor could take 1,000 horsepower. Everyone's always gonna sit there and think, well, the transmission. You were talking about how you can build a transmission. Can this transmission handle 800, 900 pounds of torque?
Not the factory one.
Yeah, of course not.
You will need a full build on that. There's a company that kind of jumped into the VR30 that looks very promising. That's the Pure Drivetrain. I've had some conversation with those guys and some of the public forums. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They're doing very much similar to what we do to our builds, or at least the company we partner with to do. we're talking about machining the baskets, adding new steel plates, adding new clutches, going through the valve body, you know, redoing the O-ringing process, making sure everything is up to snuff, and really going through it. So, you know, we were adding over 12 clutch plates and steel plates to the factory transmission and key gears to make sure that they would be able to hold. We've got cars making 700 foot-pounds of torque with the builds that we've done on the VQ platform, and it seems to be doing really well. We've got several of the Whipple cars are running it, and it seems to be holding up pretty good. And so people don't know about the Whipple VQs. They have a very similar torque curve. It's an immediate torque hit, so it's you know, as soon as you hit the gas, 3,200 RPMs, 2,800 RPMs, you have full torque, full boost. So we've got 2 cars that right now that we're trying to finish up on. Well, we're not finishing up, but some partners of ours are finishing up on that are going to be really pushing the limits. So.
Thank you everybody for watching. Do appreciate you guys. Love you guys very much. You can also check out the 2 links I posted for some of my other videos. Also on top of that, if you want to purchase some Boost in Motion merch, definitely check the link that I posted also. And finally, if you've been watching all my videos and you enjoy them, please hit the link to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you.